Hello again, YouTube. Welcome back to the Broken Past. We're going to try something a little bit different today in a new segment that I like to call Fix or Flop, where we're going to take something that's broken and see if we can fix it. Otherwise, we're going to flop. So today I've got, what you can clearly see, is a bit of a heavily beaten up DS Lite. This one's got awesome stickers around it, whole bunch of stickers around it. Buttons are nice. The hinge itself is broken. I guess you can see that there, but you can also see that it just flops open. And I guess I got a bunch of stuff written on the back, one of which you can see is sort of the big issue that this thing has. I've had this thing charging for a while, so we'll see if that fixes the problem, but I'm going to doubt it. But basically what happens is when we turn it on, absolutely nothing happens. The green light comes on. It's on, the volume's up, but we have no sound, no display. So, not entirely sure what that could be, but we are going to start disassembling it. I'm okay with disassembling it for a number of reasons. One, as we said, the hinge is broken. Two, it's got sticker residue all over it. And I figure this will be a good chance to ultimately do a case swap. I have a of course, aftermarket Zelda Triforce case coming in the mail. Once that comes in, we'll do a full case swap of this. But in the meantime, I need to see if I can get this guy working, so we can at least use it for the case swap. So, if you remember from the previous video, if you take the wireless card / BIOS chip or whatever out of it, it doesn't boot. And so that appears to be kind of what's happening here, in that light's coming on, but absolutely nothing's happening. I don't remember from the previous videos if I got a backlight at all or not when I did that. So we're going to go ahead though and at least just try that. And with that, take just a little bit more, I suppose. Take the spudger, start pushing the back up, underneath of it. And of course, this case is also cracked. I can see that. Unclip the front parts all the way around, and then making sure we don't accidentally disengage the shoulder buttons. Oh, lost a power switch. It's okay. And now from this point, I will go ahead and manually disengage these shoulder buttons so I don't lose the spring. Of course, I dropped the peg on that one. Okay, so now we have, let's see, make sure I'm still in focus here on the camera. I'm looking at it from the side here. Everything initially looks good. One thing I did check, sorry I forgot to point it out initially on the video too, was not at all on camera, the watermark, or the water moisture sensor here, as well as, or moisture indicator, as well as this one here, are both red, are both still white with red dots, which means that this hasn't been submerged in water. So it seems okay. We should have, I believe there's a couple of fuses on here that we could check. And of course, looking at it really quickly, here's a fuse right there. I don't know if it'll show up on the video or not, but it says F1 right inside of there. I'm going to take my multimeter here and reposition some stuff on my table here. And we are going to check the continuity on this fuse. So by setting this, most multimeters will have a resistance audible settings. Once you set it to that, by touching the two leads together, you get a nice beep, which also works when you touch pieces of metal that have continuity, you'll get that beep as well. So really all we want to check is that super tiny fuse. If I can get around the camera here. And if we touch that, we get continuity. So the fuse is good, which I suppose is probably to be expected, seeing as how it did successfully charge. So, not sure if there's any other fuses on here, something quick and obvious to check. But at this point, let's actually just go ahead and we'll hold the battery in place. And I'll just try it once more, just to see if that made a difference. Wow, and it did. Okay. Interesting. So the bottom display is broken, which I suppose I probably could have expected that. I could see a few lines when I was setting it up initially. Interesting. The volume is up, but it kind of actually appears to be frozen. So let's turn it off. Turn it back on again. And we have nothing. Nothing at all. That is interesting. So let's turn it off again, slightly closed. Turn it back on. And we have video. Oh, and it just died. Not sure if you heard that sort of a staticky sound in there or not. So let's try it again. Closed. There it is. Oh, we do have video. If I open it up, touch the screen, and it freezes. Interesting. All right. Let's do it one more time. Got to admit, at this point, I am stumped. I really do not know what it could be. If you look down here, doesn't seem to be any pins shorted inside of there, which is hard to see. All the pins on the back look good. Nothing inside of the GBA slot. Well, I'm going to pause the video and see what I can find. So, here is what I've figured out so far. Let me actually move my multimeter out of the way, because I don't think it's going to do me any more good. See if I can do this around the camera here. So if I take this is just the bottom board, basically the Game Boy macro minus the resistor to cause it to boot. So I put the battery in place and I turn it on. Nothing happens. It just sits there, absolutely nothing. However, if I bend the board I'll hold it this way to kind of show, just slightly backwards. So if I bend the board overall slightly backwards and try it again, see that? It kicks on and kicks right back off since it's missing the display. Slightly backwards. Oops. I have to have it actually bent just enough when it starts. Actually didn't bend enough that time, I guess. Let's try this again. Bend it just enough so when it turns on, now it's not doing that. Now I'm curious. So I had it reliably going before. So let's try this again. Bend just this side backwards. Turn it on. It's not working. Let's bend over here on the left side. Try it. Interesting. So this was working pretty much completely reliable. Let's grab around the side here of the camera a little bit better so I can get a better angle to it. So if I have it bent like this, kick it on, now it's not doing it. Yeah, like this was doing it every time. Let's see if I can bend this left side here. There it goes. So if I bend just the right side, it doesn't appear to want to. I have to bend this upper over here, bend it backwards just enough, and keep the battery connected. That causes it to kick in. So that seems to me like there's not a whole lot of stuff over here. Could possibly be, I don't know, maybe this capacitor, maybe any one of these things around here. I mean, it seems to me that it does it specifically when this back corner is sort of pulled towards the back. So pulled slightly back that way. So it could simply be a cracked trace on the board. I don't see anything obvious. Or it could be, any one of these components, maybe even something underneath of the cartridge slot there. So it could be, which I guess I have covered up over here, but it could be, the CPU or something back here that's slightly loose, which I don't really want that because I don't want to try to desolder this to try to get to it. So what I think I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to remove the network, the Wi-Fi card, take the digitizer ribbon off, and the main LCD display, lower LCD display off. So all that I'm left with at this point is the base board. And again, nothing super obvious with this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab a magnifying glass and see if I can find anything. And if I don't find anything, I am actually just going to take a heat gun and just go over this whole thing, give it some good heat, and see if I can't just potentially reseat some slightly gapped component, and see where that gets us. So I will be back with the results here shortly. So scratch that idea about going and getting a heat gun. Did a little bit of research, and it definitely sounds like it is an issue with the CPU, which is tucked underneath the cartridge slot. So I think what I'm going to try to do is, the CPU is going to be attached via BGA, I believe, the ball grid array. So there's not, I could try to attempt to reheat it and get it to reconnect, but in order to do that I have to completely disassemble and remove this cartridge slot, and I don't know how well I'd be able to successfully do that without damaging anything. So what I think I'm going to try to do, actually notice that there appears to be, there's no pin attached to this far right solder pad, but I guess maybe that's not a big deal. What I'm going to try to do is, rather than snipping these pieces like I did in another video, I'm going to just attempt to heat and then lift this off enough that I can then maybe possibly put a piece of foam underneath it here. If I can do that, maybe we'll put just enough pressure onto the CPU to help to secure it enough in place, I guess, that it will it'll stay. Because I can even at this point, with no display or anything on it, basically what happens is if I torque it, if I take it, let's see, let's do it this way, I guess. If I take the top of this and push it away from the camera, and the bottom of this and pull it towards the camera, and give it just that twist, or sorry, other way around, yeah. Well, the top away from the camera, and the bottom away from the camera in this corner, and twist it that way, it seems to work. So I think we're going to try simply just desoldering these grounding mounts, and if it doesn't work, well, not that big a deal. This is a broken device anyway. See if I can desolder these just enough to lift it up and put some sort of additional pressure underneath of it. So let's try that. Let's see if the soldering iron is warm enough yet. There we go. Not the prettiest job, but I think it'll do what we're wanting it to. So without lifting it up too much and putting too much stress on those back pins, I am going to simply let's take a little piece of this double-sided pad here. Cut this to size. And just attach it let's take the tweezers and make this a bit easier. Right on top of those two chips, the CPU and whatever the other one is. See if that just puts maybe enough additional stress on it to kind of see it there. There's a little tiny bump in there that might help to just put a little bit of pressure on it. So now comes what should be the easier part, which is simply moving my hand around the camera, getting these pads back into place. Bent that a little bit, of course. It's not the greatest job, but it might hold it enough. So let us actually, at this point, pop the battery in, or pop the battery on, I guess, since there's no N in right now. So set the battery in it like that. Just hold it gently. Nothing. Darn it. If I torque it, let's see. Interesting. It actually seems like that made it worse. Sorry, got it in the way again. Yeah. Oh, gosh darn it. Made that mistake again. Missing our wireless card. Looks like it's right here. Okay, now, this video is getting on way too long and it's getting way too late. So let's hope this is kind of my last attempt here. If this works, we'll be golden. Here we go. Hey, check it out. On, off. Once more. Boom. Okay. I believe that we might be in business. I really don't. I want to drop a little bit more solder on this corner right up here. It feels a little light on solder. There we go. I don't have Game Boy or a DS game down here to verify. I've pinched that a little bit, but I think it's okay. I think it'll be all right. For the most part, we're not really going to use this. It's more of just an overall case swap. But you know what? That's fine. At this point, we are going to put it partially back together. As I said, this is, if I got this working, this was going to be for the case swap. So this, put the display back on, attach the top display, and just verify that everything is still good. And if it is, we'll consider this a success and move on to the full case swap once the case comes in the mail. So let's zoom out just a smidge. Nope. Get the display. All the way in, both sides. Verifying that the little tiny red tabs there fit flush with the plastic housing. Flip it over. Drop the digitizer in. Bring this guy back over here. And this one's going to be a bit tricky since I don't have the case and everything ready, but I'm going to fit this guy in here. Yep, there we go. This is always, even when you do a full case swap, getting this top ribbon cable back in is always the hardest part of the job for me, anyway. I don't think that's in all the way, but we'll just give it a test just to see. Let's prop this display back up. Grab our battery. Plunk it in. Sure everything is in view here. Turn it back on. And it kicked off. Okay. It's actually still good. I think it kicked off because this ribbon cable is not in all the way. Okay. Now, as we always say, moment of truth. Again. So you got the video in there, you got the displays and the frame and everything else. Let's do it. Turn on. Well, okay. All right. So that's a problem. Interesting. Okay. So we definitely have we have even bigger problems this time. Gosh darn it. All right, let's do this once more. So colors are kind of working, and we've got a very strange video up on top. So let's try this once more. We can prop this up any different way here. So let's hold on to it. Hold on to it, turn it on. Nope. Okay. Well, I think at this point it is a safe bet to call the first attempt at fix it or flop. I believe we can call it a flop. I at this point, what it appears to me is that both the CPU as well as the GPU that are underneath of this guy are now even more out of alignment after throwing those that sticky pad in there. So I'm guessing that the board itself might, I don't know if it sat in a car or something at one point and just heated up, and a lot of that circuitry got loosened up or something in there. I don't know. Throwing the pad in there didn't work. I'll probably, after this video, I'll probably try it once more. I'll remove the pad just for kicks to see, but I'm pretty sure at this point it's dead. Both displays, though, I think are still fine. I think our displays are okay, so I'll probably end up using the top display that previously I knew was good, as well as a different display for the case swap. So we're still in shape, not a huge deal, but for now I am throwing in the towel and calling this a flop. So if you stuck with me this long, thanks for watching. If you have an idea of maybe what was wrong, if it wasn't those two chips in there, if you think it was something else, please let me know in the comments. Give me your opinion, and if I haven't destroyed this board testing it by then, I would be happy to give it another shot. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. So, one last and final update. I had thought we were done, but then I realized that, let's see if it's in focus, right here on the bottom display, I did not have this ribbon cable in all the way. It was a little bit loose, and that was causing the issues with the display. So I took it out, reseated it, took this out, and reseated it, and now let's plug the battery in. And let's give it a shot. And we get, kind of hold this here. This is what we got. We got the bottom display. We don't have the top display. Not entirely sure what happened to the top display. These top displays are usually pretty iffy as far as the ribbon cable still being good. I don't think I did anything to it in the process to test it out, but it could have been an iffy display anyway. We only got it to work kind of when it was upside down, kind of wiggling with it. So it's possible the display itself was also going out in the process. But that aside, I can turn this thing off and back on without bending it, without bending the board at all, and it turns on. So I am inclined to think that this is actually fixed. Obviously the top display is no longer working, but the primary issue of the CPU or GPU, whatever that chip is under there that was not, making a full connection, I'm inclined to say that that part of it has been fixed. So we can now, freely turn this thing on and off in the process. Obviously the top display is bad. I've tried messing with the ribbon cable, kind of reseating it multiple times. Can't seem to get anything different out of it. So I think the top display is bad. I don't know if I have any replacement displays I could swap it out with at this point. I do have a couple others. This was one off of the display I had upstairs. Doesn't work, nothing happens, you get nothing off of this, just a white screen. And the one that we did for the case swap that had the busted screen also has a busted ribbon cable. So this guy also clearly is not going to do us any good. So actually, while we're at it, we can even, if we wanted to, take, maybe I'll have to do that off screen. As long as this isn't cracked, which actually this looks like this might be cracked. If this isn't cracked, it's always nice to keep this as a different screen cover for if I need to do a swap. But anyway, this is working so that the bottom screen works. Top screen is not anymore. I don't know what the status was on it, but I'm inclined to say I fixed it. This was not a flop, but I will leave it to you in the comments to let me know. Do you think this was a fix? Do you think this was a flop? Obviously, I have not put everything back together. Really don't necessarily feel I need to, since I'm going to be taking it all apart again for a case swap, but the actual underlying problem of it not booting has been taken care of. So let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Thanks.